Why is the matrix in place?
It's a farm. That's how I break it down. It's a farm for those who put that in place. The mind is the server of the matrix. Mind, body, ego. And it tries constantly to control your perception and to keep you limited and doing anything that helps you have the eye-opening experience.
Hey, Guy here. Welcome to my Millennium Podcast. Yeah, my beautiful guest today is Isabella Greene. And boy, this is another rabbit hole podcast. You know, it's interesting. I genuinely, I've been podcasting a long time and these conversations, and I like to be surprised as well. So quite often I'll know enough about a guest, but not, to the depth of where they go. So I enjoy that organic exploration myself. And like with you guys listening to this, I mean, you might be familiar with Isabella Greene or not. But yeah, it's a rabbit hole, and it's really fascinating what she has to share about consciousness, the matrix, and outer body, and the whole setup. Yeah, I found myself a couple of times going, whoa. Anyway, that's what podcasting is about, right? Is to have different people's perspectives and opinions, put it all in the pot, and then we make up our own minds that come from that. That's the most important thing, is how we take this information and how we show up in our own lives and evolve. I mean, that's why I do what I do. That's why I run retreats and events and workshops, is to create space so we can actually find our own innate wisdom, knowledge, and exploration from that if we choose to do so. Anyway, let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, where you are in the world, of course. Say hello as you're dropping by, and what you think of this conversation. And yeah, there's links below as well. If you want to find out what we're doing, we've just created a new HEARTT guide as well, which is a free PDF that you can stick on your fridge. It's very helpful, I've found as well over the years, by applying these principles. Anyway, much love from me. Everything's below in the description if you need it. Enjoy this podcast with Isabella. Awesome. Isabella, welcome to the podcast. So nice to meet you in person, I was going to say, but it's been a long time coming.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's as in person as it can get nowadays, especially considering that you're all the way across the globe from where I'm at. But it is a pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me to have this conversation with you. I'm really excited.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, like we've been chatting 10 minutes off air, and there's a lot of common through ground on our journeys, I feel, and I've been wanting to reach out for a while. Honestly, you've been on my list of guests. And it's finally happening. And I want to introduce you to my audience and people are listening. And I always like, the best way to start it is, if you were at a dinner table, an intimate dinner party, and somebody said, "What do you do for a living?" How would you explain that?
I would say I'm a metaphysical specialist or a modern day mystic.
That would definitely open up
Yeah.
a conversation for sure. How would you describe the metaphysical? Like, what does that word mean to you? It's something I've certainly explored in my own brain over the years.
I would only explain it from my own perspective, because I didn't really go to the dictionary to read what that means, really, what the standard definition is. But for me, it is everything about subtle energies, subtle realms, stuff that is outside of the physical experience. So it's metaphysical, non-physical. That is the explanation that I would give.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to dive into a little bit, because it seems, I don't know whether it's because I'm in this podcasting sphere and there's the circles we move in, and people are coming to our world, but there seems to be a real draw to beyond the physical. Yeah. And it's wanting to experience this, whatever that might look like for you. What has been your own journey, or your own attraction and your own curiosity about, reality beyond our five senses, and what has it done for you in your personal life from actually starting to explore and experience that?
Well, there are two things I want to comment on in here. So, first, when I wrote my first book, Leaving the Trap, in 2023, I mentioned out of body travel, astral projection, and quantum travel, and going into the void. And these subjects were not very widely present on YouTube. At that point, I only knew of one person, Preston Dennett, who spoke openly about astral projections and this type of out of body experience that is that can be categorized as astral projections. But over the last 2 years, that grew exponentially, and that became the hot stuff kind of thing. Everyone is talking about, everyone is interested about it, and it went out of the sphere of being like a taboo and hush hush and something people were afraid of and the work of the devil and being scared, into more and more mainstream stuff. And one of your guests there is right, is leading the way there in the sphere of out of body experiences, and talks about it, and he's had millions of views. And so this really, you're absolutely on point there as far as that, how that all of a sudden just exploded into human consciousness and awareness, that not only there are subtle realms and all kinds of structures that are non-physical and invisible, but there is also a possibility to explore and expand in different ways, because there are different types of out of body experiences, and I've had a few of those, and I've practiced a few of these. And so there are different kinds of out of body experiences, depending on what your focus is, depending on what your intent is, and what it is that you want to, what kind of experience you want to give yourself. But I started naturally also, just kind of taught myself at the age about 17 years old. I started astral projecting, and that is what Darius talks about, and that's the dimensions of the matrix. So I had very similar experiences as what he talks about online, and I mentioned in him because just to reference something, like you can definitely write on the board, and or someone will write something on a piece of paper and put it in the pocket, and you view that in your non-physical form, or put it in a drawer and then discuss it. So I've done all these experiments, and I did that
Wow.
with a lot of curiosity between 17 and about 23-ish, 24-ish, when I decided by choice to shut that ability down because it was interfering with my American dream. It was interfering with me having a corporate career and the normal life. So after that, for 20 years, I was in a coma, you can say, because I did not do anything at all. I mean, I was always interested in the supernatural stuff, but I did not do anything deliberately to have these experiences. And then I had a near-death experience, and then I had an induced near-death experience deliberately, and then somewhere in between there, and then I started coming back into my abilities, into my knowledge, into my awareness through the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
When he was just starting to teach in 2010, and his workshops were really small, and you could go and chat with him and hang out with him, and I learned the breath work that he was teaching at that time, which had evolved and progressed since. And and I started doing it, and I have been doing it ever since. And I have developed my own variation that works best for me to have out of body experiences. But the journey from having abilities and then not having abilities, and then back into abilities and expanding these abilities, that to the point that where I'm at right now, that has been a progression throughout my entire life.
Thank you for sharing. You mentioned induced near-death experience. What did you mean by that?
By that, I mean that when I had a natural near death experience, not very natural, really, but the normal, let's just say, where I almost died, right? So the near death experience. My body, I think my body died. My body should have been dead for sure because I had a drug overdose. So I was gone for a long time. My body was unconscious for a long time. But there was some point when I was dead and I was in a different realm, and I had an interaction with Jesus-like figure who sent me back, and I wasn't very pleased with that because I didn't want to go back to my body. It was such a relief to be out of that, of the whole lifestyle and the body and everything. And so, but the space that I experienced felt really good, and I also was curious as like what's going on here and why did that being send me back when I was begging him to not go back. Isn't it, aren't they supposed to give you the highest mercy? And it was not the highest mercy to send me back into my miserable life. So I started talking about it to strangers, and I started seeking another near-death experience because as I started talking about it and researching near-death experiences, I found that in ancient shamanic traditions, there were ways to put people in the near, like in induced near-death experience state. And that was the way of learning things and all that. So I knew that that was possible. So I started
Wow.
looking for that to occur. And little that you know, in one of the bars of New York City, I was talking to a person about wanting to have another near death experience. And he said, hey, I can do this for you. And so we arranged an appointment. And he created a near death experience for me, which took me straight into the rainbowy dimension with beautiful beings and the whole thing like people talk about in real near death experiences, except mine lasted for 10 minutes for as long as it was induced. And I wrote about this in detail in my book Leaving the Trap. That's my first book. So that came out in 2023. So I got to observe the afterlife, the whole afterlife gig, kind of like an observer, the fly on the wall. They didn't, the beings there or the projections, whichever way you want to take it. I could see them shepherding souls, but they were not paying much attention to me, probably because I wasn't technically dead or whatever. And then I was just yanked right back into my body. And it was a beautiful place. Same stuff that, or very similar to a lot of near death experiences talk about. Heart opening and rainbowy and just, oh, wow, all of that. But that made me question as to what's going on. Uh, and then I forgot for a number of years. It was just kind of a database was getting collected in the back of my mind, and whatever conclusions and experiences happened, I wrote the book in 2023. It was a little book, and I was just like, oh, let me just humbly put that out there. And I had no idea how much interest it was going to generate in the people. But to answer your question about entering into the mystical, once I started doing the nighttime meditations to activate the pineal gland and the breath work that Dr. Joe Dispenza taught, and then I started modifying that breath work, and then I stopped using his meditations, but I continued because I didn't want the voice in there. I just had the music. I would do the breath work and just sit with the music, and I was doing that sometimes 3, 4 hours a night, 2 hours a night. And then I had a Kundalini awakening, and I had the full on void experience. Um, and I now posit that there is a true void and there is a void that is a part of the simulation or the part of the matrix structure. But we're going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. Um, so I would love, if this is a good moment, I would love to compare notes with you on having the void experience, because I heard you speak about that or mention it on one of your interviews there. So
Yeah,
can I
yeah,
ask you a question now?
yeah, Phil, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you had a Kundalini awakening
Hmm.
and that you started going into the void. The microphone is on you now. I would love to hear about that. Because um, there are many people who had these experiences, many, but not that many are online, and not that many have the audience, and not that many talk about it. So having two people who have these experiences simultaneously and on the same screen, I think that's a true gift for your audience, my followers for sure. So I would love, 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 love to hear your story about that too, please.
Well, thank you for asking. Yeah, it's interesting that this image started to come in for me, that I kind of approach this work like getting into an ocean or into a river. You kind of dip your toes in, you start to adjust to the temperature, and you slowly ease your way in until you're fully submersed. And that's how I approach this work, not really knowing what's in the depths of that pool. And I say this
Right.
because because I'm in front of hundreds of people every month, Isabella, here in Australia now, that come to our events. And I see most
Yeah.
people searching for something outside of themselves to fix something within themselves, when all of it is actually about being present with oneself. And it's
For
a trap,
sure.
and it's a trap, right, that we can fall into, about chasing these experiences, thinking it's going to solve our problems, with all that dynamic in there. And I only say that because over the years, even from a child, I was having certain interesting experiences. I remember one time just slowly feeling as if I was leaving my body, and I shut it down. And like you say, that
Yeah.
was in the back of my mind. I remember seeing beings as a small child,
Yeah.
and then kind of as you grow up, but it was always in the back of my mind. So it's always been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So you start reading metaphysical books, and you start opening up to different people in the world. And I ended up doing a ayahuasca ceremony in 2013.
Oh.
And
No.
and I always remember, I heard a beautiful analogy the other day. Even when working with psychedelics, they open the door, but you still have to step through with your intent and what you bring
Yeah.
to it, which is really important. And that was a huge lesson for me, because the door was open for me. It was my real first experience, and I fully surrendered into that and had this incredible mystical experience and conversation with the universe. So
Mm.
that really opened the
Or
door.
so you think. Or so you think.
Exactly. But then, so that really opened up that curiosity factor for me then. And then I started to explore. So then I started looking more into meditation, started looking more into breathing techniques, though, and just working with the body. I worked in the fitness industry, so the body was something
Mm.
that I love working with, if that makes sense, and looking after,
Mm-hmm.
because it allows me to experience life. And then I actually started working. Who I work with today, Matt, who works with sound. So I started exploring his work way back, and the combining breath and sound was so
Yeah.
powerful. Holy moly!
Mm-hmm.
And going on these
Yeah.
different sound journeys, and then that started actually clearing. It cleared a huge trauma with my dad's passing only a couple of years prior to that. All this grief started, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like the vessel was clearing through my healing.
Right.
So I'm slowly dipping my toe in more and more. I wasn't actually just trying to learn how to astral project or learn how to experience the void. It was genuinely just, oh, that's interesting, and exploring and realizing
Mm-hmm.
how much
Mm-hmm.
wounding the body holds. And then from there, I'll never forget, Isabella, I had this experience where I worked with a lady. I only had one session with her, and she got me breathing. She got me doing somatic work. She was sticking her thumbs in my jaw and releasing all this trauma from my face, my jaw, and and I laid on the table at the end, and all of a sudden I felt this wave of energy start to move through me, and I was like, and that was when I was like, wow, this is something going on here. And I'd heard the word Kundalini, I think, I can't remember, but I wasn't familiar with it, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I was having these tangible experiences of energy, and then I would lay in bed and I'd close my eyes, and it's like I could see energy and the field.
Right.
So that was happening. And then I went to a Dr. Joe workshop in 2015 where he was teaching that breath, and where you pull it up the spine, which I explored. And then from there, it really started to, so all these combination events and years started to move. And then it actually moved. And I remember having this very expansive experience, and these beings came in and started working on my shoulder, which was quite profound at the time.
Right.
Because it wasn't with a psychedelic or anything at that point. This was now just a state of being, which was profound. And then from there, it really just, it's like it's really starting a motor, and it's like, how do you contain it? So then I was going to bed, and I would naturally start to leave the body. I'd wake up out of my body. I've had my soul pull me out of my body, my higher self take me.
And go where?
To meet myself. It actually took me out.
Right, but
so yeah, go on.
Okay, I'm sorry, continue.
So the experience, it took me, and then I remember it was like flying through the air, but all I could see was like, it's even hard to explain. It's like skydiving, but you go through different worlds, different things, and then all of a sudden I was in a void in space, and then I came to an eye. And that eye it was looking at me, and no words were needed.
Yes.
And no words.
One eye, right? One big eye.
One big eye. One big eye.
We all had that. I had that.
Really?
Every Dr. Joe student that I've talked to had that, and it's in my book. Actually, it's in my second book, Beyond the Trap.
No way.
Because we have all experienced the eye, and it was phenomenal. I remember in one of his workshops when the entire group experienced the eye, and we were all discussing it there. There were like a few hundred people there.
Wow.
Already.
Well, this happened years later.
So
that would have happened, I don't know, maybe. So I was having the spontaneous out of body, and I was having beings turn up. I could feel them working on me, and I'd be just laying there. But for me, the message was, it was very clear that because I had a company, a supplement company. I was working in the health and fitness industry, but my heart and soul wasn't in it anymore. It'd become a lot about selling product, finance, and the essence of when I started was leaving that company, if that makes sense, because it had grown to a degree where it became a numbers game, and and it wasn't me anymore. And I knew that, and I wanted to actually lean into this work that I do today. But how do I do that? Excellent. And you come up against your fears, and you come up against everything. And it was like the universe then was actually conspiring and giving me this opportunity to say, give me the nudges to go, have a leap of faith, and go in that direction. Essentially.
I see. And so if I go and tell you about every healing session and energy work and remembrance and everything that took me from 2010, even just between 2010 and 2014, when I had the Kundalini awakening, we're going to be here for 6 hours. So
it's okay.
I am very, very familiar with what you're discussing, and because I've been through that gradual kind of releasing from the vessel and releasing the trauma and doing the inner healing work. And I've been doing the inner healing work on myself, and then I started offering that to people too. And for 15 years, I had a healing practice where it was, um, and my skills developed through these nighttime meditations. But what became the norm was going into the void to rest, kind of just to dissolve into the true essence of my soul, the true fabric of myself. And I teach nowadays that if there are beings, you're still within the matrix. And there are different kinds of beings that show up and work with on you and help you from like wholeheartedly, but they're still a part of the matrix structure. And I explain all that. There is a chapter in my book, Beyond the Trap, that's my second book, and that is true void versus dimensions of the matrix. So I go into that in great detail there, and it's phenomenal that it is so similar for so many people. And my experiences at the beginning were very similar to your own, until I developed the ability to bypass all dimensions of the matrix and what I call now quantum travel straight into the true void, because the 12 dimensions of the matrix that Darius Wright talks about, all the layers, all the beings, all of that is a part of the matrix structure. That's what I have seen, and this is what I believe. And they work on you and they help you, but it's all within the same structure, and a lot of them conditioned by the same conditioning as the human beings to have certain sorts of beliefs here, but they're all trying in their way to help. Some are trying to confuse and deceive, but majority are trying to really help, because from where they stand and from where what they believe is right for the human race. But once you reach the point that you're able to bypass, literally teleport out of these structures and go straight into the fabric of your essence, the fabric of your soul, that space of everything and nothing. Because if you are in the black space, but something else is there talking to you, looking at you, you still, it's a outermost layer of the matrix structure. So there is a fake void, I call it the fake void. And then there is the true void that I teach, that is way past, like outside of all structures. And that is the pure fabric of source. That is the, you can say that's God. From my perspective, that's that. So when I developed that ability to teleport straight in there without flying through dimensions of the matrix, without interacting or encountering any beings, and it's instant. There is no sensation of flying. There is no sensation of time or space or movement of any sort at all. It's like literally you are there 1 second and the next second you're completely gone. And the body, I had a number of experiences where the body would stop breathing, the heartbeat becomes undetectable, like it's stopped. I was convinced that my heart stopped a number of times. And so that's a complete disconnect from the entire earth plane and all the layers and all the astral dimensions, and including the outermost astral plane, that fake void. That is the dark space. That is kind of like the main frame that we can get there. We can influence our reality from there, make the changes, and all of that works just the way we know it. But it is still a part of the system. So how about that there?
Yeah, no, it's a lot there, and I'm also, because these conversations haven't come up a huge amount on the podcast, so I want to dive into it a little bit, if that's okay, Isabella.
For sure, let's go.
Because if I was hearing you speak before any of this, A, I probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast before any of my experiences, right? And B, if I was listening to it, I think that's just crazy. That's just
Yeah.
spiritual woo-woo talk that you talk about, but because
For sure. Same as majority of the population
that's
nowadays. Yeah.
right. But
We've all
I'm here because I can relate to what you're saying, and once you have these embodied experiences, it's like, wow, you only need a taste or a sniff, and you're like, holy moly, is there more? And then it really opens the door to what's possible. You know, how it. I'm trying to think of framing the right question for everyone here, because how would you explain why is the matrix in place? Like, why is this set up the way it is? If there is a matrix, if there are all these layers of dimensions, what dimension are we actually in? What's going on here? How would you break that down?
It's a farm. That's how I break it down. It's a farm. For those who put that in place, um, in simple terms, right? But for those for whom this is all new, right? Let's just break that down. So there was a certain consciousness that needed energy, and to receive that energy, it needed subjects to milk the energy from. And so the human race was created in with one and only purpose is to produce that energy for the makers or for those who created the matrix system with all of the dimensions, and they still run the matrix system. And so funny that you have a question whether there is a matrix system. My question nowadays is the matrix system a simulation, or is it like something else? That's my question nowadays. And are all the beings that we encounter actually projections, like holographic projections, or are these actual beings? So these are the questions in my mind nowadays, and I go into both of these. And actually, if a person reads my first book, Living the Trap, they will see that I was very much just figuring things out, and the Matrix wasn't even a part of my awareness at that point. And then a year later, through all of the information, all of the podcasts, all of the questions, all of the people who reached out to me, and also continuing to go into the space where you go in such deep separation from the left brain that filters everything out, that you're able to retain or receive information that interests you. So I kept, and I call that like the downloads. You just get the direct downloads. So of the truth, at least this is what I believe. So and then in my second book, I go more into it, and then it's where I question, oh, is that a simulation actually? Because how many people pass every day, and there are always at least one or three beings that greet them, walk them through, greet them at the exit point, the white light tunnel, and then they are received and they are welcomed and they get their life review and the whole thing that we hear about through the near death experiences. But if you think about it, that should have three times as many people, I mean, three times as many beings as there are human souls that are passing just to do this job. And so that makes no sense whatsoever. And as far as that they would work that hard. So at some point, I have figured out that chances are that it is artificial intelligence, that it is something that is projected based on your beliefs. What you believe in, you're going to experience in the astral. When you astral project, so not all visuals are the same in the astral. I have high respect for Darius Wright's work, his visuals. He's like paving the way for the human mind to see that there is more than just this physical experience, and it's okay, and then it's okay to do it and to explore. But the visuals that he gives us, not everyone is going to experience these visuals unless they truly believed and focus on his visuals and expect to see exactly that. Then they're going to see that, because the system produces the visual that you most believe in. And so the same thing happens very often with the beings that greet us at the end of our lifetimes, during our near death experiences, during our psychedelic experiences. And very often you would say that what you experience during these situations is somewhere already in your own mind, and the system just scans you and produces the visuals that would most apply to each individual person. But the purpose of the matrix, with all the multi layers, with all of the uh, presences and beings or projections, whichever way we want to see it, is only one purpose. There's only one purpose, and that purpose is to collect the energy that Robert Monroe calls loosh. Loosh is the energy human beings produce when we have emotions, the entire spectrum of emotions. So, as unpleasant as that might sound, we're already in it. And so, what we can do is just do the best of it within this lifetime, utilize the mainframe, the fake void, to influence our experiences here, make the best of our lives, do the healing work, feel better, and then get out at the end of this
Yeah, I was going to say,
lifetime. And this is
sorry
what I
to
teach.
jump in. Yeah, because, you're sharing things that, I can feel a contraction in my own body. It's like, oh, that sounds rough. You know what I mean? It's like, how's that going to,
Yeah,
it can bring up
I know.
all sorts of emotions and feelings. And
I know because I've been through this. I went through this. I was fully conditioned by the New Age and the modern day spirituality and the traditional teachings on karma and all of that. I was fully conditioned into all this. And then when I started having different experiences, different awareness started coming in, it's an existential crisis for sure. Even Robert Monroe, who wrote about finding out about Earth being a lush farm, after believing and after having all these astral projections for years and the institute and everything, and then when he finally found out directly from the beings that were guiding him that the truth about the whole, he went into deep depression too. But it doesn't need to be that way. It's just information, because there is nothing we can really do about it except just make the best of it in this life. And it is absolutely possible to make the best of it in this life and give yourself a good human experience. But what I teach and what I recommend is give yourself the best human experience you can, but train while you're still alive so that you can make sure that you get out of the whole structure. Withdraw that fragment of your soul that is now linked to this physical body vehicle.
so, what are you saying then? So once we pass, there's a recycling of ourselves back into this life that keeps us in this loop. I mean, do you
Yeah.
believe that Earth is a school that we are here to?
No.
So you don't believe that our souls are here to
Zero,
grow?
zero. Makes no sense whatsoever, because in the afterlife you're presented with the life review. Everyone tells you that who went through the near death experience, including myself. I had that too. So, but they show you the life review of the things that you did, but you did these things based on what you agreed to do in the previous episode of the same story. Meaning your karmic lessons that you're going to go to Earth and learn are set in the same exact pre birth dimension. So there's an afterlife dimension, there's a pre birth dimension. And once you've gone through your life review, they're going to say, okay, so you did this, and that wrong, or you need to learn more of that. and then you're going to go to Earth and do these things to learn or to pay off or whatever, sign right there, okay, and off you go. But when you come back, you're judged for that, for exactly what you agreed to do. And so there is no such thing as paying off karma. And the whole idea that Earth plane is a school, that is just something that makes it, I say that that's the archonic or propaganda, or the matrix structure propaganda to keep us accepting and agreeing and returning, because there's no end to it. There is no graduation at the end somewhere. Even if you manage, you still you still transitioned into a different planet within the same matrix structure. And you can read about that in chapter 43 of the biography of a yogi, where Sri Yukteswar, who was the who was Yogananda's guru, he passed away. And then he resurrected, came back, and told Yogananda that he's now continuing to teach souls to pay astral karma now. And he's in a lighter place, in a better place, but there's still astral karma. There's still not good enough. You're still guilty as charged. You're still sent back to Earth and then back. And if you're better, you might end up on this planet. So it's like a Russian doll. It just continues in layers and layers and layers. And so unless you get out of the entire structure completely, that system is not set up for learning or growing. The system is set up to keep you here.
What
So
happens?
this is
Interesting. What happens when you get out of the structure completely?
you withdraw the fragment of the soul that you are. You are you are the fabric of the universe. You withdraw the tiny part, the tiny speck that is linked to this body and that keeps recycling. We call it the human soul, right? Or the soul, or whatever. Um, you withdraw that from the system and you return back into the fabric of your true essence. And in that way, you're liberated from all structures, from all milking and lution and repeating and returning and being recycled. And that is the ultimate freedom, the ultimate freedom experience. You return into the fabric of source.
It's yeah.
That's what I see as the only way out of the structures, because the structures were not created for us to easily just graduate or easily get out.
It's fascinating. I can feel my mind just almost conjuring up images and things. It's almost like, because I can't, my limited mind can't conceive this whole experience, right?
I thought you invited me.
No.
You invited me.
th-
You invited me on this podcast. This is what I teach. This is what I write about.
this
So
is great. No, it's funny
here
because
we are.
it's like the mind starts filling in the blanks to make shit up to put into
Oh yeah.
place if it doesn't have it in there, right? And then we create an image, and then we start to create emotional experiences from what our mind is trying to conceive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but the mind is the server of the matrix. Mind, body, ego. This is the structure that comes with the matrix. We are as a soul, we're linked to it. We're merged with it. We're in it. And it tries constantly to control your perception and to keep you limited and to keep you from doing anything that helps you have the eye-opening experience or mind-opening experience. All the resistance, and then we have all the beliefs and the conditioning and all of that layered on top of that, and then the whole idea of being different or being weird, and oh my
mm,
god, and I could go on, and all of those are blocks, and they are all generated by the system that once you focused on your survival, once you focused on your immediate surroundings, once you focused on your physical experience, and the mind is very inflexible when it comes to challenging the beliefs that we have been conditioned into, that we wholeheartedly accepted. And I'm speaking from experience. It has been quite a journey for me too. And like I said, I went all the way into the whole spectrum of like full on high vibe tribe, and only good, only smiles and positive talk, and only like don't say this, don't say that, and just only focus on the positive. But and then the fifth dimension, the fifth dimension, we're all moving into the fifth dimension, we're the new human, the new earth, and oh my god, it all goes on. And I was in that for over, well, close to 15 years. I was that, and I was wholeheartedly in it. And then I started remembering things, and then I started questioning things,
Of
because
course.
you go through all that and there's still a feeling that there's something that's not right. Why is that? It's just not right. And then you start questioning things when you are away from the human form. Shut down the body and your pure consciousness. Bring the question with you. Come back into the body, unless the body filtered it out, which it does a lot. But for that glimpse, that moment where you just landed, you have the answer. Like, wow, eye-opening stuff. And then you find that there are others who talk about it. We have David Icke, been writing about this for years. Robert Monroe wrote about this in his own way, and there are many other sources, a lot of other people who discuss the same thing, and a lot of people who had the same feeling, like something is off. Like, I don't get it. I don't know why, but something is just not adding up. And so now I'm on this different trajectory since 2023. I went ahead and put these speculations into a little book, and the book became bestseller. And people started saying, "Give us more." And I've been all over the internet with the podcast and interviews. And now everyone is started, like, if you go on YouTube now, people are talking about exit and reincarnation left and right. When I started in 2023, there was no one else discussing this. And the people who interviewed me were like, "What?" and now I'm working on my third book, because as I progress and I grow and I learn more and I have more experiences, and come into more awareness, I'm just paving the way and opening these concepts and putting them in my workshops and the books and in the classes that I teach, and leaving it open to people. They can decide for themselves what
Exactly.
it is that they what it is that they accept, what it is that they forget. But I say the experience is the best teacher,
Oh,
because
without a doubt.
you
And
and I can sit here and create the pile of words about what the void versus the true void, or what the fabric of reality feels like, or even the outer layer, that blackness, what it feels like. Unless you've experienced it, you can't really describe it, right?
absolutely. And
Like, you can't.
no, you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing like you are, because that's why I invite you on. I mean, one of the greatest gifts podcast has given me is to actually listen, is to listen deeply with not my mind but my heart as well, and be open and continue then to explore the path for myself. I've
Yeah.
I've I've
Yeah.
I've had nearly 400 conversations on here over, I
Oh,
don't know
wow.
how many years. I started this at the beginning of
Mm.
2018, and
Oh, nice. Hmm.
and so it's I think it's really healthy to explore that, and while I haven't had experiences that you share, like clearly I've had experiences that keep me open to, well,
Yeah.
what else is there? What's more? And you navigate and you make your own way through life. And I think that's the most empowering thing we can do, is to become our
Right.
own inner compass, our own inner guru, and really start to trust the wisdom within ourselves. And how do we develop that muscle? Through
Yeah.
teachers and guides and concepts, and move forward through life the best we can. And it's,
I agree
yeah,
wholeheartedly. I agree. And I believe that curiosity, open mind, the sense of awe, doing the inner healing work, and creating the best experience of on earth for yourself while exploring the potentials and possibilities, just in case you want to give yourself a choice at the end of this lifetime, or just a choice period while you're here. I think that's the way, that's the name of the journey here on earth. That's what I believe.
it's wild. Hey, I
Mm.
I'm conscious of my time because this conversation feels like it's just starting. And just for the listeners, because they
Sure.
have, because I got two young children, they start stirring soon. Because I got up
Yeah.
at 5 a.m. to do this podcast for 6 a.m. today. So
Yeah, thank you for that.
no, of course, and I want the listeners to know this, because like sometimes I just want these conversations to go on, because my intent today was to open the door to these conversations, and bring you on, and so we could
Thank
talk
you.
about it. But I do want to ask you, before we do wrap up the podcast, Isabella, is like, what, with the matrix and the system, and I know, and it's more for everyone listening, not so much myself, but how do you know, what were you shown? Did you explore? Like, how did you start to see this and experience it?
See that the matrix is in place?
Yeah,
Or,
all of it. Yeah, yeah. How?
well, it started from the near death experience, because my question was, like, why was I sent back? So my focus originally, and still is, on helping people to exit the reincarnation cycle, which is a part of the matrix. But long story short, over the last 2 years, because people keep reaching out to me with that question, with the matrix question. Oh, so what do we do? How do we get out of the matrix? The answer is, you cannot get out of the matrix while you're living in it. The only way out is after you pass, and train and to give yourself the out of body experience of the kind that takes you out of the system, so you can repeat the same thing once your body lets go of you at the end of your lifetime. So it just progressed, and just I've been doing remote viewing, and I've been doing
Oh wow.
explorations, um, the astral travel within dimensions of the matrix, outside of dimensions of the matrix, and all the way into the true void. So I have been exploring all these layers of out of body travel. So I have remote viewed, you can say that I have remote viewed the system. All right. And it looks like pepperoni pizza. Meaning, there is like, let's say there is a bubble, and that bubble is a part of the matrix that encompasses planets and certain dimensions, and within that bubble, that's the pizza, there are smaller bubbles. They encompass the matrix structures around each individual plane or each individual planet, including Earth. And if you zoom in more, you will see the centerpiece, like a physical Earth. And then you will see dimensions progressing out until there is a black layer on the outer level, and that's the fake void. That's the mainframe, so to speak, the operating system for the matrix structure here. But you can see these beautiful rainbowy dimensions. It does look like that, And you can explore that from within, like Darius Wright is doing, like I've been doing too. And or you can get out into the bigger bubble and observe remote view, or you can get out of the system altogether, and then you do not see it because it's you're no longer remembering what you're doing, you're no longer linked to it, and you're no longer viewing anything, you just completely dissolve. So this is how when they talk about the Matrix started, and I was in the documentary last year with David Icke, and I got to and he talks about a lot about the Matrix, and then he mentioned my work in his book The Reveal, and so I started looking into his work, and I learned a lot of his perspective on the Matrix. He is the guy. If you want to know about the Matrix, you go to David Icke and you read his stuff. He is the one who will explain it in all the details and all of the logistics and all of the left brain explorations. I am the one who is an observer. I'm based on experience, on the visuals that I get within the experience, and then the information that I draw from the field to explain these experiences for my left brain. So that's the answer to that question.
No, incredible, incredible. Thank you. And so you're teaching people how to do this. And is it something like what have you witnessed with the teaching? Is it what gets in the way from people not being able to start to astral project? What have you
Fear
found?
mostly.
Fear. Yeah, I was going to say
Fear,
that. Yeah.
the set of beliefs, belief structures. There is a really strong belief that says that people always come up with because they heard it somewhere, that there's such a low percentage of success in these practices. But here we have two of us, you and I, we have both had experiences of separating from the body and having the void experience, whichever void doesn't matter in this particular point, right? But here we are, we're just sitting here casually talking, and there are hundreds of others, and you know them through Dr. Dispenza's work, and I know them through Dr. Dispenza's work. And so the blocks, fears and traumas, the inability to let go, the childhood traumas where we were so traumatized that we have to constantly be vigilant, unable to let go and let the experience happen. And there's a whole list of interferences and blocks, and I have all of that in Beyond the Trap. My second book, Beyond the Trap, is like a manual for someone who decided that okay, they're going to learn the technique, they're going to start getting up in the middle of the night like I have been doing for over 10 years and doing their meditations at that hour when the system is conducive to that, and to know what's in the way, what might happen, what to expect, how to set up. All of that is in writing in my second book. So it's very easy. I made it very easy for someone who wants to start training now while they still have time, instead of facing the blasting white light and some angels at the end of it saying, over this way to your life review and then next incarnation. That's too late. It's too late at that point. If you trained and you learn how to have these out of body experiences, how to direct yourself out of the matrix structure, then you have a chance to do the same thing at the end of your lifetime. You will not need to do any practices. You will just repeat, directing your non-physical form where you want it to go. So this is what I teach. I created an online school over the last 2 years that's called The Void Academy, and that's thevoidacademy.net. I wrote these 2 books. I'm in the process of writing the 3rd one. As I learn, I teach, I share, I write, I talk about it. I just started doing the Q&As for people who are already practicing, or for those who want to, and they can jump on that with me on the Void Academy. So I had no idea, Guy, no idea in my wildest dreams that I would ever be doing something like this. So it just all came together. I knew I was going to be doing healing work, but now I'm moving away from healing work that I've been doing for 15 years. And I am now dedicating my time to this subject because for those who get it, it's the it's the ticket. It's the ticket out of the entrapment system. And there are thousands and thousands of those who get it. So,
Yeah, I just want to add one thing before we wrap up is that
of course.
these experiences have been actually so freeing for me on living my life. Like I
Yeah,
surrender. I I live with my heart. I live with more peace. I don't take things too
for
seriously
sure.
anymore, you know, and
Yeah,
it's so liberating, and it's allowing me to have a quality of
absolutely.
life that I didn't know was possible 20 years ago, you know. So
Absolutely.
this,
Any separation from the body, be that astral projection or even remote viewing, which is a form of just sending your consciousness elsewhere, right? It's not technically full or out of body, but it is one of these kind of forms of sending consciousness elsewhere. Astral projection, out of body experience, which is an out of body experience. Quantum travel, which is an out of body experience. Remote viewing, while you are out of body. Now that's graduation. That's graduate school right there. But all of these experiences give you a whole new perspective on things, a whole new perspective on life, on Earth experience. And it's so worth it. It's so worth it to overcome the monkey mind and to go there because look at your smile, look at your open heart, look at your energy. It's visible, it's obvious as to how it changed your life. It changed my life tremendously as well, and it just makes the whole human experience worth living here, honestly.
yeah.
So yeah, I couldn't recommend more. Whichever out of body rocks your boat, do it, and it will make your life better here, regardless of whether you want to jump out of reincarnation cycle or not.
Isabella Greene, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I deeply appreciate it, and I have no doubt another conversation further down the road will happen. I don't doubt it. Thank you, my lovely.
Uh, Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, Guy.